Hey guys! So, in this video, we are going to talk about where my passion for programming comes from. So let's get into it. Now, this was a very flattering comment or question I got the other day, basically, from someone who reached out and just said that, Fredrik, it would be really, I would find it interesting to hear where your journey started and where all this passion for the industry and where does all this come from, because this person shares my passion for IT and programming and all of that good stuff. And I thought, yeah, sure, I can probably relate to you. I mean, every person's journey is a little bit differently, and mine is probably not an exception. But well, it started for me in fairly young years, where so I grew up with a brother and a sister in my hometown, basically. And although we were technically a family, we had this kind of weird family situation where my father would work absolutely all the time, and my mother had problems kind of just keeping it all together, if you will. So me and my siblings, we fought like cats and dogs, all the time. We didn't really have much of a connection, so very quickly I became fairly isolated from my family, basically. And I spent most of my time alone in my room. And it's kind of there it started for me, because I don't know how it came about, but I was always very fascinated with learning things that I found interesting. Even as I was 8 years old when I got my first library card, and I would visit the library almost twice a week for many years and just borrow books on all kinds of things. I was very into magic and hypnosis and things of that nature, and chess, of course. And that's kind of where it started for me. And it was only until one day in at school where I realized something. It was when I was, I think, 10 years old. And my sister had gotten into a bit of trouble with some bigger boys in the schoolyard. Now, although we didn't really get along, I've always, as the big brother, you can imagine that I have I have that thing that big brothers have, which is, that's my sister, don't mess with her. That's the protective aspect of it, if you will. And so these three boys, who were much bigger than me, and bigger than my sister, she's a few years younger than me. So I was scared shitless, but I ran up to her. They were in a circle around her, and I basically told her to, just leave. And then I stood there, and I tried to stand up to them, basically. Now, I was lucky, that's a relative term, but I was quite fat as a kid. I grew up being fairly obese. So even though I was a few years younger than these boys, I could actually stand my ground. And I took a few swings at them, and they took a few swings back, and it kind of ended with them, well, I wouldn't say that I came out unscarred, but I managed to get through it. And it was after that, after the adrenaline had settled and all that stuff, I realized how good it felt to help somebody out, to have the ability to do something on behalf of somebody else, or at least help them in a tough spot. And something made me realize that I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to acquire the skill sets, regardless of what they are, that I need in order to help other people somehow. I didn't at the time, I was 10 years old, I didn't know how to do this, but I started learning things about martial arts. I got into that. I started learning how to think, how to act, and all these sorts of things that basically are trying to acquire the tools that I needed in order to produce value that would help other people. And as I grew older, I kind of got to a point, I think I was 13 years old when I got my first computer. Now, I had no idea how to use a computer at all. The only thing I used the computer for was to play computer games, and I didn't even know how to install them. And I remember how horrible. I mean, my father wasn't like, he didn't really know anything about computers either. So he had a coworker that had to, on occasion, be convinced to come down and help me with my computer. And I remember how long I had to wait. I mean, it could be months between every time I got some help with my games and so forth. And that's when I realized how finally I just said, I couldn't wait anymore. Like all these computer games, and as a kid, you know, I want to play computer games all day, every day, but I only get I only get one new game every 6 months. I was it was pure suffering for someone like myself. So I started learning about computers in order to be able to play my computer games. And it was only in my 20s, because I can tell you honestly that I do not remember a single day since I was 13, I think, up until I was around 25, 26, where I had not played some type of digital game for at least 2 hours. That's how much I played. Like, I played computer games almost non-stop. And then I finally had this friend who sent me this, like, a web page, basically, an introduction to how to do PHP development. And something flipped in my head, and I don't know what happened, but the same type of energy and love, if you will, that I have for computer games was transferred over to programming. I felt like I started doing some basic PHP courses from he's still doing it, I think. His name is Kevin Skoglund. He has some really good, on lynda.com, he has some really good introductions to PHP. I watched all of those. And I don't know what happened, but I felt that like that sensation of power that I had back in my school, like when my sister was in trouble. I felt like I have the ability to do something now. I have a skill, I'm getting a skill set that I can use for real, like something for real. And then it kind of took off. Like from that point, I was completely encapsulated. I did it like every single day, and I still do. Like every single day, I dedicate to trying to figure out how to get better, how to learn something new, and how to improve my skill set so that, you know, I can build things. I can create real things that solve real problems, and that's where this is coming from. And there's more to the story, of course, but I don't want to bore you with all the details of my life because, yeah. But anywho, that's basically the answer. It started out as just a desire to learn a skill set, or learn the things that I need, or have the tools that I need in order to make a real difference in my life and in other people's lives. And programming fits that bill very well for me because, I mean, it's the same sort of a sensation of empowerment I can imagine an inventor or an engineer or a person like that has, because at the end of the day, I can only describe it as this. If you sit me in front of a computer, I have the mental tools as of today that is required to do almost anything with that computer. I can build almost anything. I can make things happen. I can make a real difference in people's lives. And that's why I'm working where I'm working right now. That's the entire reason why I love this programming thing so much, because I feel empowered to build things from nothing. I can start with nothing and create something that gives value to other people's lives. And everything in between, my preferences in programming language and all that stuff, that just boils down into me wanting to be as good as humanly possible at solving those sorts of problems for other people. And that's where it all comes from. My core, if you will, the thing that is in the center of me, is just a desire to have the ability to solve problems that help out other people. And I take a great deal of strength and enjoyment from seeing everything from somebody using an application that I built and, you know, it helping them somehow, to teaching somebody a skill set that makes, you can see see that moment in somebody's eyes when they go from not understanding a concept to it just clicked. you can see it, they clicked in their head and they go, that's how it works. That moment, that sensation, that's what it's all about for me. Everything comes from that. And so hopefully this was, I don't know if I answered your question, I kind of drifted off there for a moment, but yeah, that's basically where it all comes from. I love programming because it lets me solve real problems. Have a great day.